Hello, hello. How are we doing out there? Coach Brian Champ here. We are here with Dr. Sandra Khan. So I'm here at Lifetime Fitness in Folsom, and we got some folks online. We have some folks here at our facility, and we're excited to get this going and chat with you about breathing efficiency. So you and I have known each other for years. What year did we meet, Dr. Sandra?
I want to say 2016.
Yes, I think so. I think you're about right. Yes. So, yeah, we've been through a lot together over these years. And Sandra came in as a client in my Bay Area location in Burlingame. We had, prior to 2020, I had a location in Burlingame, California, Belmont, San Carlos, and you were in our Burlingame location. So, um, yeah, everything was much different now post COVID, and we're still working out together online these days, which has been awesome. And hopefully, we'll see each other soon. Um, in that Mexico retreat. So Sandra and I have known each other in many capacities. I was on her advisory board for her company for a while. We've done a lot together, and she is on the forefront of breathing efficiency, recovery breathing, and there's a whole rap sheet on Dr. Sandra. She is a world-renowned orthodontist, and kind of you can kind of I don't know if you want to go into that story or not, but just kind of talk about how maybe you moved away from that traditional practice because of some of the things you were seeing. I thought that's really interesting. So you want to give us a little kind of background of kind of how you kind of ended up in the breathing space? I think it's pretty intriguing.
Mainly through me being an orthodontist and then having a child that had a mouth open and knowing that this wasn't conducive to health and not having any tools to help him. It's so many scientists. I have this colleague here in Medellin. She became a neuroscientist with a PhD in neuroscience. She's a pediatric dentist and she was trying to find solutions for her own son. So this is incredibly common for people in healthcare to be to struggle more because we know more.
Conversations. We chat about my son and just things that we can do, and with the palate and not getting braces when the dentist told us to. I thought that was something that was very different, and he seems to be doing pretty well today overall.
Fantastic. But just having the ability to connect with fitness professionals, it's the key to really having that third leg in that stool because that's missing in the health field. So I really admire you, Brian, and I want us to continue to collaborate. And I want you and my team because to have somebody that has the knowledge you have and is humble enough to pick up on things that are completely disruptive. There's so many paradigm shifts and you need to be really humble. And there's very few knowledgeable people that are humble. I'm not sure if I count myself in this group, but I try to pick up on things and scratch what doesn't work. And that's incredibly difficult. One of my professors said, don't allow your knowledge to become an obstacle to your learning. I'm really grateful of this space and the fact that you're bringing the fitness professionals to this area.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. So we have a combination of trainers and our lifetime clients here, members. So we have a good combination of both.
Before, I've worked with professional athletes, but I've never had this type of forum like you have. This is very special. Thank you.
Very good. Well, let's do it. Can you share your screen?
I can
If
with
anybody wants to scan Dr. Sandra's QR code there, you can go to her site.
if anybody wants the QR code, which I always give to anybody that's in our lectures. So this is the array of products that we have. I'd like to start with this very short video on Simon Sinek because for me, the why is critical. Once you get the why, then you can do the how very easily and the what is there, but the why is critical. And then why me? Why Sandra Khan? Why you should trust me?
The world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, but very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. By why, I mean, what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? And why should anyone care? The inspired leaders and the inspired organizations all think, act, and communicate from the inside out.
The why is critical, and I thought I would pick up some stuff from this amazing neurophysiologist, Dr. Nicola. And I want to bring up a few things that were in this podcast, because I think this is critical to what you do, Brian, and what I'm trying to do.
And I know this because I'm a clinician. And over the last decade, I've been surrounded by the greatest neurosurgeons in the world studying the brain. And so I'm here to tackle one disease, and that is Alzheimer's. Exercise is one of the most potent stimulus for brain health and Alzheimer's disease prevention and cognitive reserve. The more you exercise, the bigger your brain. That the biggest amount of return on investment is from resistance training. Having strong legs is by far the most important tool in your toolbox for the prevention of Alzheimer's disease. And this was made certain to me when I read a study done on identical twins, exact same genetic profile. And they tracked them and they did cognitive tests and MRIs. And they tracked them over a 10-year period. And what they found was that the twin who possessed the greatest strength and the most leg power had a bigger brain, larger gray matter volume. They preserved their cognitive functions. They did better on different cognitive tests you have. But when it comes to the brain specifically, you want to be lifting heavy for several reasons. The first one is when we lift heavy, when we literally, like when we contract our muscle like this, we are releasing a whole set of chemicals. They're called myokines. And when they're released from the muscle, they go up to the brain and they do beneficial things for our cognitive performance, our cognition, and they help with the growth and proliferation of new neurons in the hippocampus. You can grow new neurons in the hippocampus from structured exercise and consistent exercise. Interleukin-6 is also responsible for the downregulation of tumor cell growth. So exercise is a potent anti-cancer intervention as well by way of myokines. Well, just 30 minutes a day of aerobic physical activity can downregulate 13 types of cancers. And the most prominent ones being breast cancer, colon cancer, and prostate cancer. So quite specifically, when we exercise, we're getting a robust release of something called natural killer cells. So they go into the tumor site and they start to kill the tumor. And this is where you get your anti-cancer effects of it. But you can also get it from the anti-inflammatory effects of resistance training, anti-inflammatory effects of aerobic training. So I want both men and women lifting heavy because you've got areas in your brain right across here lives your motor cortex. Think of your brain as real estate. There's real estate in your brain reserved for lifting heavy. So every time you lift a heavy weight as opposed to a lightweight, it takes more neural real estate to lift that heavy weight. So the heavier you lift, the greater the neural drive. The greater the neural drive, the better it is for your brain. If done correctly, the deadlift can use almost every muscle in your body, erector spinae, you've got the glutes, you've got the quads, you've even got serratus anterior, you've got your calf muscles. There is so much compounding in that one lift, would probably be comparable to a barbell squat as well. I love aerobic training. Women are facing a dilemma on social media because they're being given so much information. There is this huge uproar of should I do zone 2 exercise or should I not do zone 2 exercise? And that's generally when we're looking at exercising at around 60% of our maximum heart rate. And it's where you're jogging, but you can have a conversation, but where you're huffing and puffing. A lot of women have been doing zone 2. They've been going to the gym. They've been doing zone 2. And I'm trying to push women to get out of zone 2 for several reasons. Not because it's not good for you. I think all forms of exercise are good for you. The more you move, the better, right? But let's be really honest. A lot of people in midlife are busy. They're time poor. Men actually get a greater return on investment by doing zone 2. Women don't get the same return on investment from doing zone 2. So I'm trying to push women to first work on zone 5, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. If they can, just do zone 5. Then do 2 to 3 sessions of resistance training a week. And if you have time left over, that's right there. I've just described around 4 hours of exercise. If you have time left over, then you can work in zone 2. So if we want to work on our VO2 max, we want to be doing what we call the Norwegian 4x4. It's the gold standard of increasing your VO2 max. So you want to get your heart rate elevated to 90 to 95% for 4 minutes on, 4 minutes off, repeat 4 times.
I wanted to stop it right there but it's very important to understand what she's talking about. Increasing your VO2 max is 4 minutes on and then 4 minutes completely off. So the key is, what do you do in those off minutes? How do you recover in those minutes? And this is part of the why and what we're going to introduce today with this recovery breathing, which is key to everything that she's talking about. In this podcast specifically was Alzheimer and cancer, which are not little topics, and it's something of everybody's interest, and obviously women. But in general, let's figure out what we do when we are resting and how do you recover more efficiently.
So how do I do this? Well, I actually do this twice a week because the more you do, the better. I do this on a stepper. I do this at the gym, and I put my stepper onto, I think I'm at like level 14, and I'm working my way up, and I'm staying on there for 4 minutes. And then I'm having a complete stop and a complete rest for 4 minutes. And I'm repeating that 4 times.
In this complete rest, if we are nose breathing efficiently, we are going to be putting that nitric oxide, which we're not going to talk about this today, exactly what is the most efficient way to get that nitric oxide through our nose to be bioavailable. That's the key, to make that nitric oxide bioavailable, because the mouth makes nitric oxide too. But to make it bioavailable for the brain when we're recovering or when we're sleeping, that's going to be the key.
I'm doing in that moment. I'm not just getting a massive shunting of blood to the brain, okay, which is good. I'm not just getting a massive release of myokines and exokines to the brain. I'm also remodeling the heart. I'm downregulating tumor cell growth. I'm improving my cognitive performance. I'm doing so much more than just exercising alone. So midlife is the window of opportunity for brain health and for longevity. Sleep is, I think, by far the most underrated Alzheimer's disease prevention tool that we have. It's underrated because we have been doing it all our lives and we think that we can just go to sleep and the magic happens. But I think now in 2026, we actually need to train for sleep. So during deep sleep, we activate the glymphatic system, and sadly, a large proportion of us aren't getting into deep sleep.
Why Sandra Kahn? I have publications that are very prestigious. I have the definitive opinion on recognizing origin, cures, and prevention of the jaw epidemic, and a book that has been a bestseller. And I've worked with the most brilliant minds at Stanford. This is an article that has been #1 cited scientific paper in 2023, I think it was. And then there's this article that just came out this month. I just chose a few of my publications. If you want to download the article, there's a QR code right there. But this was a study just came out in Pediatric Pulmonology, which is the Q1, the most prestigious journal in medicine for children and breathing. We did a clinical study. This is why I'm in Colombia, of children that slept with our training and kids that didn't. We compared it. And the key in this study is that deep sleep exploded in these children. If you see the non-REM sleep down here, lower right, that was the result that just, exploded. This is why we were able to get it published in the #1 journal that we submitted. This is huge. So this is why Sandra Khan. This is Sandra Khan in 2019. I was quite heavy and I was starting to snore. I've always focused on nose breathing, but I was really at a point where I needed to do something. And how do you go from the person on the left to the person on the right? Obviously, a lot of help from Brian, but I really started focusing on what was going on in my airway. I did have airway surgery where my jaws were moved over a centimeter forward. So I increased the ability of my body to be able to get the oxygen and the air that I needed to recover. And this is me currently. So in the left, I was there, that was 2019, and this is me today. So I'm going to be 60 in about a month. So actually working out and doing the right exercises, but being able to recover, I think it's a critical part that we all need to put in. This is my airway before the surgery and after the surgery. So you could see that the size, the physical size, the real estate that I have, the architecture for the air to go through was expanded about 10 times. What we talk about reverse engineering your age. This is one of the huge topics for me. But the things that my team at Stanford we talk is that in order to age better, we need to mitigate the natural decline that we see in our cells. So what are the factors that determine how we age? We have our genes, our community, exercise, sleep, diet, and luck. This is what we've figured out that it's what's going to give us the ability to know if we're going to age better or not. Like the super agers, which are the centenarians, are being studied, and we know that these are the 6 things that are factors in how we age. Can't do very much about our genes. What we got, we got. We can't do very much about our luck. What we got, we got. Most of us that are in this podcast or in Brian's class, we are lucky enough to be able to think about these issues and afford what we need to afford. But then we have the other ones: community, exercise, sleep, diet, and exercise trumps diet 4-1. So this is what we can do: exercise and sleep with include these 2 things and try to improve or potentiate these 2 things that we can do in order to sleep better. In order to age better. And we're talking about not only longevity, but we're talking about health span, not lifespan, but health span. This is my son. So Brian was asking about how I got into this. So this is my son, no surgery, with all the techniques that I knew and the experiments. I got his jaws forward because I was able to work with him earlier. So what's the main, now that we know the why and we know who's talking to us and we want to prioritize this, let's learn a little bit about what the UpLock is. These are our devices that help us with the UpLock: the UpLocker, the lip locker, and the manometer that helps us measure. This is a little video of me demonstrating what the UpLock is in the physical world. We are going to simulate that this heavy water glass is our tongue that can weigh up to 250 grams. If we think of this as the palate and we swallow and generate negative suction inside the mouth, we are going to hold the tongue without a conscious effort so we can rest all night. This would be the dunder space, and this is the effect of the UpLock. So we can rest and generate all night without using any active energy. with the uplock effect. Being able to have our heavy tongue in the right place without expenditure of energy. Because if the tongue is in the right place, we will optimize our breathing. This is a swallow. And let's show a little bit about what happens when we swallow. This is an MRI of the swallow. We use pineapple juice because it's really opaque. So we can see that over here, this is where the liquid is going when we're going to swallow. This is a soft palate. This is a tongue. And I don't know if this is clear to the lay people that are looking here, but you know, when that compartment is fully closed or nearly closed and it gets bigger, the pressure in the compartment goes very, very low and eventually gets so low that the edge of that compartment breaks and the liquid or the food is accelerated all the way to the esophagus, which is quite far. Immediately after we've swallowed, our soft palate gets glued to the tongue again. There's no air at all in the mouth, and we have a clear airway going from our nose all the way to the airway down here. So this is the way that we're supposed to sleep, the way we're supposed to rest, with all the tissues away from the airway and consolidated in one mass that's not obstructing where the air has to pass. In snoring, and I'm not going to show snoring, but in snoring, you have the soft palate in this area. So this noise that we hear when we're snoring, and there's oral snoring and there's nasal snoring, but it's the soft palate vibrating because the air is causing some kind of turbulence there. So it's harder for our lungs to create the suction we need for the air to go in. When this is happening, the nose becomes a natural injector of air, and the air is pushed with no energy, which allows us to sleep better, and it allows the central nervous system, the brain, to stay asleep. If this is not happening correctly, then our lungs have to struggle, and if our chest is going up and down when we're asleep, we are recruiting our brain to help us breathe. So the brain cannot be free to allow its cleaning, integration of emotions, memories, all the things that the brain needs to do, cannot do it if the brain has to be interrupted to help us breathe. So this is the key position that we want when, after we swallow, we generate that, and what our devices do is help us recognize it so that we can replicate it automatically. These are our devices that we've talked about. This is the UpLocker, which we're going to show first. And I do always have to disclaim that I'm not selling devices, but I made the devices that I needed. So it's not that I wanted to make a lot of money and I made lots of devices to sell. I made the devices that I needed for myself. So I make them available for everyone. So this is the UpLocker. So when you put in the UpLocker in your mouth, the little bubble is a feedback membrane that will tell you when you swallow, saliva goes down, and then exactly after you swallow, and I don't know how to get into how do I get into the pause here, because I have that thing there. But right after we swallow, immediately after, we have this position. So in this position, our airway is free, and we can see from the outside if this is happening or not. So the feedback membrane tell us if we're doing it right or not, because everybody thinks we have the tongue glued to the roof of the mouth. Everybody tells me, oh, my tongue is always on the roof of the mouth, but we really don't know. And more times than not, the tongue is close, but it hasn't closed that space with negative suction. So this is why we need the UpLocker to give us that feedback. This is the way we swallow. We see the soft palate bounces. We swallow. It occurs very quickly. It occurs very quickly, and it moves the liquid down. But right after we swallow, we want that to be glued in. This is a system. I'm not going to go into detail, but we need to talk a little bit about, for example, the lips. We call the lips valve number one. Hold on just a second.
If anybody has any questions, by the way, put them in the chat box and we'll try to get around to those. So, and then also I will have a recording on this if you want to go back and look at it. And if you want to
Sorry,
share it
I
with somebody, we
have
can do that
somebody
as
at the
well.
door. Okay,
I just
so
told
these
folks
are,
to, I said if
yeah,
anybody has any questions, just put a chat in there and we can
yeah,
answer later
I
if
heard.
possible.
Yeah. So these are the valves that create four closed compartments. We have the compartment where the teeth are, then we have that compartment where you saw the saliva goes in, then we have the throat compartment and the nasal compartment. So there's four compartments that are separated by valves. So every compartment has a door for an entrance and an exit. So the lips, we consider it valve number one. It's very important because people ask me all the time about, lip taping. Lip taping would only cover valve number one. And what's happening in the back here with valve number three, valve number two or three, what's happening inside, the lips do not address that because when you you change the language and you start talking about valves, you understand that there's pressures that when we talk about valves in the heart, we know there's pressures, there's blood pressure, there's all kinds of pressure. So thinking of the lips as a valve allows to understand that closing them mechanically through tape is not going to do anything for the back of the throat, right? Let's say the lips are closed here. We have closed lips, but the valve here is open. So it's still going to struggle. So we found with research using the nasometer, because we have the nasometer helps anybody measure the resistance in their nose at home. So we've measured the resistance when we have tape. And actually, it's harder for the nose to get the air in. And people like using the tape because it keeps the mouth moist. It keeps the gums from drying up. So people naturally feel better when they put the tape. But what's happening to the nose and to the brain? They're struggling more. So we really don't recommend the tape because if this is happening, the air will struggle against this. So we want to close the mouth through dynamic of fluids, which is like the example I use is like when you're in the shower and the shower curtain gets glued to your body, that the shower curtain is not pushing. The shower curtain is just sucking in through superficial tension. So that's what we want. We want the whole mouth to close with this passive, completely closed force, but it's passive. It doesn't require any energy. So if you learn this more times than not, you will be able to keep your lips closed. But if you just put the tape, it's going to make your nose and your lungs and your brain struggle more. And this is not what we want. All of this is in our book, Breathe 4.0, which is an amazing book. I think I gave you, Brian, one. If I didn't, I'll gift you one. It's a 500-page book that really goes through everything. It has a full chapter on sports. And this is what we're talking about when we talk about closed lips. I asked my son to put his lips together, but keep his tongue down and jaw down. And then I asked him to just do the uplock. And you can see facially, he looks completely different. And this is a picture exactly the same day. But you can see that lips closed can still be leaving the air to struggle to go through. So we want the uplocker to tell you if you're doing it right or not. These are the valves. I'll just go very quickly through them. We have the lips are valve one. The tongue, the tongue doesn't have a tip. It's a U. So the U that the tongue makes in the front is valve number two. The soft palate against the back of the tongue is valve number three. The constrictor muscle at the back of the throat and the soft palate is valve number four. The valve number five is not the pharynx. Anyway, I forgot where the air goes through. And then we have six is the esophagus. That's only open when we swallow, otherwise it's closed, and seven is the nose. So these are the valves, the seven valves that if you change the name of the muscles or the lips word and you use this new language, then you understand how you can use these valves to optimize your rest. So this is how we generate the up lock. You swallow, the tongue goes to the roof of the mouth, and then you hold that position. And we need to try to hold that position with as little energy as possible without losing it. So this is like in sports. I'm going very, very fast through this, so you can watch it in the video later if you want. But we have three positions of the tongue. One is the position that has no tone, where the tongue just falls down. Then we have the position with tone. And the myofunctional therapy and the exercises for the tongue and all this that's very popular now is working with tone. And then we have the up lock, which is a position where the tongue touches fully the roof of the mouth, but without having muscle tone. So this, the hypotonic, the tongue falls down into the throat. The tonic position with tone is working against gravity through muscle force and using energy. And then we have the up lock, which just keeps the tongue away and everything away, but without energy. We call that the central position. The transitory position is when we're putting our muscle, our tongue, we're using our muscle and we're putting it in the roof of the mouth. And this is good. I'm not saying one position is better than the other, but this is when we're getting ready for an action. So when we're getting ready for an action, we use the energy and we get our muscles ready to do something, ready to talk. So in sports, we got to understand these three positions so that we can maximize what the goals that we have, what we're trying to do in sports. The central tongue is when we are recovering. So we go from the transitory position to the resting position, and we need to understand when to use each. The central position is when all the tissues inside the mouth are in contact. The soft tissues are in contact with the hard tissues. So that's how we know that we're in the central position. And that central position is facilitated through swallow. So we swallow and we end up in that position. Anybody listening to this lecture could put their teeth lightly together, swallow, and they will recognize that central position. Again, this is an example of holding a very heavy object through this mechanics of fluids. It's extremely strong and it requires nothing from our brain. This can be used for orthodontics, for improving your sleep, for improving spleen therapy and grinding, for people that have lost their ability to swallow, and for performance optimization in sports, which is a topic that brought us here today. So sports dentistry, we want to optimize your breathing for recovery and performance. So some sports require mouth breathing. I get very annoyed when I hear when people say, oh, you should always breathe through your nose. No. Again, we started with our why this lecture. You got to figure out why you're doing what you're doing, and then you can figure out how you do it. So some sports like swimming will require mouth breathing. I work with a lot of polo players, water polo. So the water polo kids, they have to mouth breathe, which is perfectly fine for their sport. The thing is when they're recovering.
Changing technology, changing genes, and a changing mindset. Innovation in sports, whether that's new track surfaces or new swimming techniques, the democratization of sport, the spread to new bodies and to new populations around the world, and imagination in sport, an understanding of what the human body is truly capable of, have conspired to make athletes stronger, faster, bolder, and better than ever.
There's so much more technology. We're going to talk a little bit about the switch point to control physical fitness, to reduce energy requirements, to stimulate altitude training for climbers, and it also supports restorative sleep, which is critical for any athlete. Dr. Engelken, Dr. Klaas, that I've worked with in Germany with professional athletes, have different devices like the lip locker that help us understand and use the switch point. The switch point is going from that mouth breathing and nose breathing when you need maximum oxygen to recovery mode. And some sports need to, you need to sometimes, especially the endurance sports, that you need to recover while you're doing the sport. So we need to understand the switch point and utilize it properly. We have two modes, the free lock and the up lock. We have really more, but these are the ones that we work with in sports. So the free lock is when you have you need a lot of oxygen, but it's active. It uses your nose, your mouth. The valves are working variably. The pharynx is variable, and we use a lot of energy in the active mode. In the up-lock mode, we're passive. We breathe only through our mouth. The valves are all closed. The pharynx is wide. It's very open, and our energy is low, or the usage of energy is low. So this is your alternate breathing, where you breathe through the nose and exhale through your mouth. And this helps you get into the rhythm of maybe running and doing long-term sports. And if you have questions on specific sports, we can talk about that. But we worked with the Munich professional soccer players in trying to help them optimize in their sport. They have to be in those three tongue positions because they are ready for an action or they are recovering, but then very quickly they have to start an action. So this is a very interesting group, and we're helping them tap into their maximum oxygen when they need it. So maximum air load during maximum effort. And then once they finish with their effort, we want them to go back to recovery. These videos are on YouTube, so I'm not going to play them. I do a little bit of explaining. I'll show you a few of them if we have time, but this is a chart. It's in our book, and I went through several of the sports and the types of breathing that are used in that sport, and what we recommend in competition, in recovery, during training, and then any special consideration on these sports. So we have middle and long distance running. So those are endurance sports. We have sprinting. We have, my son plays tennis. We have soccer, swimming, which is a sport where you are actually mouth breathing most of the time. Boxing, scuba diving, golf. I just chose different sports that can use your breathing and choose where you want to train in order to improve on what you're trying to achieve. Nasometer is very special because it helps you optimize your nose. Because if your nose is not working well, that's critical. That's the first place that any athlete should look into. And it's very difficult to get a good ENT that can help you with the nose because they always blame it on allergies or deviated septum. There's always a way to blame this and say, this is what you got. And people tend to accept their nasal situation and say, oh, I'm a mouth breather. I've never been able to breathe through a nose, without really understanding how critical it is. So the nasometer has opened a place for that. I'm not going to show our explanation because we're running out of time. But the up-lock provokes a floating position of the tongue. It can be measured objectively. It can change and enhance your breathing, improves dysphagia. So if you have any problems swallowing, there's people that choke with their own saliva. Correct problems with the tongue, speech, and if your tongue is pushing against your teeth for whatever reason, it promotes healthy jaw development. It supports orthodontic therapy. So we can use the up-lock breathing for a lot of things. It opens the airway. It forces nasal breathing. It improves defense against infection because the air goes in through your nose. It's filtered. It's warmed up, and it's coated with nitric oxide. So it can help us against infections. It works without muscular exercise. It promotes healthy sleep and promotes good tooth position. So there's so many things that we can do to use our up-lock training for wellness, for longevity, for sports, and for different therapies when there's already some kind of disease like snoring or sleep apnea. We have the lip locker, which is one of my favorite. This is about swallowing. We can help people, elderly people, even with Alzheimer's, to be able to swallow better. Can help people that are snoring, or if people are wearing a CPAP, it can optimize the CPAP. No, I'm not talking about not using a CPAP. I'm talking about optimizing so you don't need to use so much pressure and you can use a CPAP that's a lot more comfortable. These are all online on our YouTube channel. We want to mouth breathe to get rid of the heat. Because as humans, we have the ability to get rid of the heat in our body. That's why we've really been able to live in any climate and do any activity in the planet. But after we've dissipated the heat, we want to go back into the water.
Okay. Okay. Fíjate. Activado. Respire profundamente.
Llevan 88.
¿Ve?
So these athletes are recovering in half the time. We're measuring their nose.
Pero te obliga a respirar natural.
So when we get into the nose breathing,
Me sorprendió la velocidad con la que me parecía, ¿no? Para
Sí, mire, el efecto de NO que se libera en la nariz cuando uno está obligado a respirar nasalmente y cuando la boca está plenamente cerrada de la vía aérea. Bien, el
here we have I'll play it kind of quick, but we have endurance sports. These athletes here are using the lip locker during their practice. So whenever they're going up a hill or they need that maximum oxygen, they take it out, they spit it out, and they mouth breathe or the combination breathe. And then once they're recovering downhill, they put it back on. And they're pretty good at doing it even without taking it out of the mouth. They open the mouth and then keep it. I've seen them keep it, next to their lip and mouth breathing. Again, we measure how fast they recover doing this. Same thing in the working out functional exercises. We have this is what I do, is I hold my lip locker when I'm lifting. So it helps you engage that nitric oxide while you're working. All these videos are online if you guys are interested in the details of them, but it's always good to, when you're doing your, as Dr. Nicola was talking about, doing those 4 minutes and then those 4 minutes of rest, we go and we rest, we recover with the up locker or the lip locker. We can control fitness, we can reduce the energy needs, we can support regenerative recovery and sleep. This is the lip locker. This is the full kit that we recommend for athletes, which has the manometer so we can learn how to hold the least possible pressure. I like this animation somebody did for me of the swallow when you are sitting inside the tongue, the movement. We can have children do activities or even ourselves. The little membrane from the device, so we can have somebody else or ourselves monitor if we are in a block. We use swallowing and water. So we also do the invisible swallow with water to train our tongue to do all the work. And little kids can do it on their own. And we have some kids that, we want them to do because I work mostly with kids, but we want them to be distracted doing something like watching TV or listening to an audiobook and holding that up lock while they're completely distracted. So we're separating their conscious brain from the device. So these are some of the strategies of how we do it. We can at home.
Can I see your tongue go into up lock? Comfy up lock. That's amazing. I want you to be able to hold in that up the number. Oh, you're right there. Yep.
It's not that easy. Learning to do nothing
I know your
is
tongue
quite
likes to
difficult.
wiggle
It
around.
takes a lot
So-
of practice. This is our lip locker. Neurological research has shown that if you repeat something for at least 30 days, it becomes a pattern. So if we start practicing with the up locker and we do it every day the same way for 30 days, your brain creates those new patterns. If you have any questions, I'm happy to go over any of these. I have my lip locker with me. I think it was important for me to talk about why it's worth it to go on this path. And I thank you for the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yes, that was great, Dr. Sandra. Can you just kind of go over like so when I'm teaching, for example, so how do we utilize like right now? I was, we're listening to you, we're active listening. What can we be doing with our tongue? Ideally, we're not even thinking about this, but just guide me through it. Like, what should I be like listening to your conversation right now, like this?
No.
No, probably not, right? So just I was kind of thinking about like that would have been a great place to start. We could have practiced for 45 minutes right now, but just kind of take us through our ideal resting position because that's what it's all about, right? It's like being in this ideal position now, right? And then it changes with different intensities. So, but yeah, how should we be right now? Kind of guide us with our breathing
Yeah,
mechanics.
it wouldn't have been a good idea to ask people to hold the up lock for these 45 minutes because as you learn something, it takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of work to figure out how to do something without any energy and to do it automatic. So the helper we have is a lip locker. But we can do it right now, even if you don't have one. You put your teeth together and basically just swallow and you make sure there's no air in your mouth. I don't like talking about the tongue because when we talk about the tongue says, yes, did you call me? Can I do something for you? And the tongue starts getting active. So it's more about just getting all the space to disappear from your mouth. And if you look at my face, you can see that the only movement from my swallow is in my throat. See, all the muscles in my face are disconnected. It's very hard to swallow like that because we're used to swallowing, making faces, more or less. Most of us have dysfunction. It's not everybody that I know. I have never met anybody that doesn't have dysfunction up to now. Even people that have perfect teeth, we have some degree of dysfunction. So the lip locker helps you hold that and not have to be working so hard to maintain it. So the lip locker is the first place. I mean, the up locker allows you to recognize it, that you're doing it. Once you've known how to recognize it, then this is kind of the maintenance device where you just put it up. It comes with some straps. I take off the straps unless it's a young kid and you want to supervise it, but I take the straps off and then you put it. And it's super, super comfortable to hold it like that. If you don't have this, it's very hard because you keep losing a little bit of leakage of air through the middle of your teeth, and it's very hard to hold it. It takes a lot of effort. But with this, it just becomes very easy.
And again, I've been using this for a couple of years now myself. My son uses it because of his mouth breathing issues, which is kind of what got me into it. And then I realized, like, oh, he's using it. I should use it. And you're telling me all this stuff that I never heard before about Alzheimer's now, too, kind of connecting some other dots. So that's really interesting. But yeah, my wife sleeps with this thing. And, I do have a mouth guard as well. I know that was a question we had this morning when we were working out. Somebody asked, well, do you wear it with a mouth guard? And I do. They're two different issues, right? I mean, you ideally shouldn't be grinding your teeth if you have this lip locker in, but you can do both. I mean, you can have.
No, you can use it with any type of splint, as long as it doesn't have, it's just over your teeth, it doesn't have something on the palate. If it has something on the palate, like a orthodontic retainer where you have the plastic in the palate, then it's not going to work. But the Invisalign type of retainer or the splints, as long as your tongue is free to touch fully the roof of the mouth. I was going to say there's a testimonial from, and my partner, I think, he's joined the meeting. And he was telling me his friend, who's a dentist, has been sleeping with this for a couple months, and he's very stressed. He's working a lot, and he has had issues, and he had a medical appointment. And he thought all his markers in his heart and his cholesterol and everything, it was going to be a disaster. He was expecting the worst because he hasn't been exercising. He's been doing nothing. He's been super stressed. The holidays came, and he went to his appointment, and his test results came ridiculously good. Like every marker was good. And he says he's basically been sleeping deep sleep since he's been using this. So his markers, which we haven't really done any research on, but all the markers from the heart and the blood just came out, with flying colors through the fact that he's been getting better recovery at night.
Awesome. And that's something we could probably also measure on our own with the Whoop or Oura Ring. I don't know much about the Oura Ring, but the Whoop should give us that info. So
I don't trust any of those gadgets, but people love them.
yeah, well, you should be able to pop out of bed better with energy, right? Yes. So I mean, this is not something we should be using all day long. And it's really, I mean, it's a training tool, right? I mean, we're utilizing it to teach or to help us bring back that motor control we should be doing already, right? Isn't that really the main goal? Because like you said, this should be passive. It should be something we're working. You told me before we shouldn't have to work on breathing. You told me that, right? We should be breathing, but somehow, and that's another conversation, right? There's been a lot of disturbances.
Recovery breathing should be completely effortless.
Right. Effortless. Yes.
Yeah, I don't like this diaphragmatic breathing. I mean, it's good for some things, for focusing and for stress and for many things, but not for recovery. Because you don't want to see a sleeping person in deep sleep. You don't want their chest to be moving. Because as soon as you move muscles, your brain is recruited.
So just to summarize the lip lock technique, which I think is the most important thing. Tell me if I'm coaching this when I do these workout classes to our warm-ups. I'm telling people when we're at the start of the workout, right? Just relax the jaw, relax your mouth, lips together, teeth together, swallow but lightly. You coached me on that recently. Swallow without making a lot of effort, without using your face. And now let's do our work. Like if we're on the treadmill, let's at a low intensity, right? These zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 work, we should be able to breathe in and out of the nose with that lip lock, with the up lock oral posture. Tongue on the roof of the mouth should automatically go there when we have that little suction.
Eventually, should just park there if we just
Eventually,
swallow and
with
stay
training.
there. And the one thing that I always have to emphasize, and I see it on you because I'm watching you on this video, but you have a lot of tightness in your lips. And when you learn this technique, your lips just relax and you start, especially for us women, our lips start getting fuller, because when you relax that muscle, it stays relaxed. But you have a little bit of a dysfunction where your upper jaw is too far back. But in general, we don't really put in any force on it. And most people swallow using their lips. So you want to disconnect them. And when you actually are able to do it for long periods, your muscles start showing and your lips become fuller, which is a nice anti-aging aesthetic as a result.
Got it. All right.
Effect.
Cool. And then in regards to, I was a little bit confused. So when we jump into high intensity stuff, we are going through that switch point, and so we are going to breathe through the mouth. We want to get rid of heat. So high intensity, we are breathing through the mouth, and then ideally we want to get back to that oral up lock position as fast as possible. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I have a little 3-minute whiteboard animation if you want to show it about, when to use the nose, when to use the mouth. If we have time, I could show it. But or we can do it at a different
We can
point.
do that. There is one question here. Do you have any stats on how many, I'm not really exactly sure, how many less episodes there are using a CPAP machine after using the UpLock device and training for a month? Specific time.
So it's not about the episodes of, it's not about the AHI, but insurance loves the AHI. So it's how many times you stop breathing every hour. Some people stop 30 times. I think you consider sleep apnea if you're above 15. So it's not the episodes necessarily, because you want 0 episodes with your CPAP. The difference is you still have 0 episodes, but calibrating with a lot less pressure. So it becomes more gentle use, and you can use the nasal cushions. Some people need to use a mask, and you need higher pressures. If you learn the UpLock, then you can use most of the time you can use only the nasal part, which makes it a lot more comfortable, and you don't have to push so much air. The less air you push, the more comfortable it is. So it's not about the less episodes, it's about calibrating in a more comfortable way.
Very good. Okay. All right. Can we show that 3-minute video and then I got to run as well?
Yes.
And if folks were to get the lip locker, up locker, I believe there was a Scan Me with videos on how to utilize this thing as well. Then there's YouTube's, right?
Yeah.
What Makes Us Human by Dr. Sandra Kahn, in collaboration with Dr. Paul Ehrlich, Dr. Jesus Rangel Chavez, Robert Sapolsky, Jared Diamond, Dan Lieberman. It's incredible to think that we share 99% of our genes with primates, but what truly sets us apart isn't just the genes, it's how those genes are expressed in our bodies. One thing that makes humans unique is our ability to sweat. Long ago, this seemingly simple feature allowed our ancestors to cool off while running. It may not sound like much, but it gave early humans an edge. They could run longer than faster and stronger animals, eventually outlasting them. It was one of the many traits that helped us survive. Now, let's go back even further, 400 million years ago, when our ancestors first moved from water to land. Being on land was a game changer. For the first time, they could see far ahead. On land, you can spot a mountain in the distance and plan to walk around it. In the water, a coral reef surprises you. There's no time to plan. This new ability to think ahead set the stage for the evolution of problem solving. Fast forward to speech. Complex communication was another defining human trait. Those who could make a variety of sounds were more successful in life and love, even though this made us more prone to choking. It was a trade-off that humans embraced for survival. In 2012, John Gurdon was awarded the Nobel Prize for something remarkable. One cell has the power to create an entire organism. His experiment involved taking a cell from an albino tadpole and placing it into the egg of an African frog, which developed into an albino frog. This groundbreaking discovery showed the regenerative power of cells, and this concept applies to us too. Our jaw cells work the same way, growing and adapting. But what controls this growth? It's all about the cell location and long-term behavior. Take our jaws, for example. If your mouth is left open too long, the cells adjust and grow to fit that posture. You hold slight suction in your mouth, the tongue rests on the roof of your palate, your lips stay closed, and your teeth lightly touch for several hours each day. Your face will develop ideally. Why do so many people today have crooked teeth? Modern humans have been around for 300,000 years, but jaw changes are evident from just a few centuries ago, which is too short for major genetic shifts. The answer is our environment and our posture have changed. If children can't breathe through their nose, they keep their mouths open to get air, which affects jaw development. Now, let's talk about the nose, an often ignored but crucially important organ. Getting air into our lungs involves different jobs for the mouth and nose. The nose filters, humidifies, adjusts temperature, and even produces nitric oxide to help with breathing. The nose works slowly and carefully, just like a precision tool. The mouth, on the other hand, is like a high-speed conveyor belt. It's great for high-volume air intake when you're running or doing something strenuous, but it's not built for long-term, careful air management. Since the mouth is for short bursts of high-volume air intake, and the nose is for continuous, careful air management, Our nose cannot keep up with more particles in the air, so the mouth has to complement the volume of air we need. Modern air quality has led to more mouth breathing. Good posture and nasal breathing are essential for health and longevity. So what's the solution? We need to turn to real science, focused on health, not profits. Not just for treatment or prevention, but to support healthy environments with good posture throughout life. By rewiring our posture habits, we can help people thrive and live longer, healthier lives.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sandra.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. That was great. I'm sure there'll be some questions. I will direct them to you. If anybody has any questions, I'm sure there's a lot. So I will post this shortly. And if you have any questions, please comment below. And we'll get those to Dr. Sandra as needed and go from there. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everybody for listening today. Hope that just made you think a little bit more about breathing. All right, Tim.
Do share my email and WhatsApp with anybody that has
Yes.
questions.
Will do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. See you
Bye.
later.